Buddy, welcome back to episode 23 of Shots on Target with your host, Brad Betts, your go to show for global football analysis and betting. Today is Wednesday, September 25th. We unfortunately missed our play of the day yesterday. Coops had 10 plus chances on net. It's the same exact result we saw the day before in Iceland. These playoff groupings have seen the play reduced, very conservative. So what we're going to do is we're going to steer clear of any of those playoff groupings in any of these smaller leagues because it doesn't look like the consistency is there. Even though the attempts are there, we want to make sure the consistency is there too. So we're going to avoid that. Now today, we're going to take a look at two really high-performing leagues in action today. And we're also going to take a look at a highlighted match in Austria. We're going to pop on over to take two looks in the Europa League, followed by a best bet in the Europa League. Absolutely pumped for what we have today on the slate. Some great, interesting matches throughout Europe that really matter. In the first day of the Europa League in the new format, exact same format as the Champions League. Just a reminder, because things are changing. We don't have that home and away fixture. You're not going to be playing against the same team back to back or in your group. You have different teams home and away for your entire knockout stage. Before you get to the knockout stage, every match is going to be different home and away. So we got to be very, very, very particular on what we go after. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Chris Kowalski, what's up? Russell Johnson, good to see you. Hoffenheim isn't mentioned today. Why are we even betting Europa? That's a great precursor for what's going to be happening at the end of this episode. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Right now, there's three matches at halftime of the DBU Pokalen, aka the Danish Cup, a really, really high-performing cup competition throughout the world. Right now, in the last 40 matches, the over 2.5 has come in 36 of those 40. That's 90%. 9 out of every 10 matches have hit that over 2.5. In the entirety of the tournament, there's been 77 matches, 63 and 14 to the over 2.5. That's 82%. Tons and tons of goals. What's up, Al? Good to see you today. Excuse me. Danish Cup performing. There's two underdogs that are actually up on the slate. However, I'm seeing these games removed from the sports books left and right, even as they start gone. So be very careful. It's a really high-performing league, but know that the sports books are really playing games today. Germany 3 is our next league we're going to jump into. Wow, this league has been performing like crazy. It is the third flight of German football. So not the Bundesliga, not the second Bundesliga, but the third tier of German football. What that means is you're going to get some less competition. You're going to see some names at level teams who play all-out attack, back and forward. It's just fun football to watch. You'll occasionally get a match on ESPN Plus, just an FYI. But Germany 3 is coming in with BTS in 68% of the last 65 matches. That's 44 and 21, but it's trending right now at 19 and 7, so 19 of the last 26. That's at 73%, an uptick in the both teams to score. But the over 2.5 as well, 42 and 23 coming into it for the season, 65%. So those are really high numbers, 65 and 68%, tons of scoring. But it's trending at 20 and 6 over the last 26, 77%, including over 2.5 hitting in 12 of the last 13 matches in the league. So it's coming in high performing. All 5 matches hit over 2.5 yesterday. 4 of the 5 hit both teams to score. It's continuing to produce. We have 5 matches today, so make sure you're putting this league in front of you today. Watch it. Make sure that you're comfortable. There is one team that hasn't had a clean sheet in 14 straight. I believe their name is Waldorf. So maybe you want to pay attention to that one as well. But it looks like there's just scoring from all over the board. All teams on both ends. Next, let's jump into some individual matchups. There's a really interesting match today in Austria. Maybe those aren't paying attention to it, but it's two top European sides who perform in Europe regularly. Now they're back in their domestic league playing against one another. Austria Vienna at home, scoring in 18 of their last 20. they've conceded in 20 or 9 straight and 20 of their last 24. That's regular production from one of the upper sides of the Austrian Bundesliga. They've hit both teams to score in 10 of their last 12 matches coming into it. They're taking on a Sturm Graz side who scored in 23 of their last 26 in the league. Regular production. They've also scored in 8 of the last 9 matches that they've played Austria Vienna away from home. So when they go away, yes, at home they score, but even when they go away from home against Austria Vienna, they seem to find the net. And they're scoring regularly, but they're also conceding regularly. Conceded in 15 of their last 17 matches coming into it, including 11 of their last 12 away from home. This one sets up real nicely for the both teams to score. However, it got nuked overnight. It was sitting at minus 165 early in the day yesterday. Now is up over minus 200, 215. If this line drops live, this is going to be a match that you want to target. It's just got everything that you need. As long as you see chances on both ends, you want to see one person scoring in the first half, hopefully Austria Vienna, giving us that Sturm Graz play at halftime, potentially, or early in the first 15 minutes of that match when the line drops. Take a look there. Next, we're going to take a look at our next match. We're going to highlight Bodo Glimt and Porto. Well, Bodo Glimt come in scoring that transition was poor. We're going into the Europa League next, highlighting 3 matches today. First one on the slate is Bodo Glimt, who scored in 32 of their last 34 matches. Nobody surprised to see that. We tail Bodo Glimt regularly. They've conceded in 16 of their last 22 overall, including 11 of their last 13 when they're in Europe. They're at home today, should be able to find the net, based on how often they find the net, and they should be conceding based on how often they concede. But they're playing a really strong Porto side today, who scored in 23 of their last 24 matches. Nobody surprised to see Porto in these European fixtures, especially in the Europa League fixtures, to be a dominant force, one of the top sides in Portugal alongside Sporting Lisbon. But Porto come in, as I said, scoring in 23 of their last 24, but they've conceded in 15 of their last 27. That's not necessarily that great a production, just hovering above that 50%. But when they go in Europe, away from home, they have a much better chance to concede. So let's take a look now. They've actually only lost 1 of their last 22 matches coming into this. 1 loss, and that was against their rivals, Sporting Lisbon. Very, very tough squad. They played them away from home. Outside of that, they've just been picking up result after result, scoring multiple goals. If you're looking at this match, I think there's only one way to play it. I've personally played, it's not a best bet of the day, but the Porto money line and the both teams to score bet split. Porto money line at minus 115. Bet split, both teams to score at minus 150. It's a pretty solid look. If Porto wins, which they should, because they should score, should get them out ahead. If Bodo Glimt scores, it should push Porto ahead. It's a really safe way to take a look at a very difficult Europa League fixture slate, but one match in specific that we might be able to find some value there. Next, we're going to go and take a look at Galatasaray. Now, again, another squad that we've been tailing like crazy. Galatasaray, one of the top teams in the Turkish Super League. They perform week in, week out, depending on if they're in the domestic league, if they're in the Europa League. It doesn't matter where they are, they're performing. Galatasaray have scored in 36 of their last 41 matches. They've conceded in 17 of their last 18 coming into it. That's just 1 clean sheet over their last 18. They've also conceded in 12 straight European matches. So when they're in Europe, they concede. They regularly score no matter where they are. They have top attacking players like their new loanee. Nobody knows, or nobody's surprised to hear this guy's name, but maybe a little bit in the Turkish league, but Victor Osimhen on the loan, couldn't get a deal done with Napoli. Now he's at Galatasaray. They've got Michy Batshuayi. They've got Osimhen. They've got tons and tons of offensive talent. They play very open football. They look for a more attack-heavy play style. They look to score more goals than they will concede. That's really their play style, whereas you have some other teams who play more defensively. This is not one of them. They've hit over 2.5 goals in 19 of their last 22 coming into it. They're taking on a PAOK Thessaloniki side, PAOK, from Greece. We've tailed them before. They have let us down, but they have also hit for us. They've scored in 47 of their last 54 matches. One of the top Greek sides, a regular performer. They've also conceded now in 23 of their last 29 matches coming into it. Both sides scoring, both sides conceding. No surprise these lines are hovering close to minus 200. You can parlay those together. However, I personally want to see how the first 5 minutes are playing out. If it's nice, there's going to be a really good chance you can drop in on a comfortable 2.75 line and then wait out a BTTS on the bet split. That's one option. If you think this is just too good and you need to jump in, both teams to score and over 2.5 goals on a parlay is okay. So we want to make sure that we're looking at things the correct way, which is both teams are scoring and Galatasaray can't keep a clean sheet. So we should see goals here, but it's not going to be my favorite play of the day because there's one more that I lean a little bit better. And yes, Claudio, we did lose our last 2 straight plays of the last 2 days. Not a great result for us. Got some bad results. We had the stats that backed them up, but that doesn't matter. We're going to continue to plug away. We do have some built-in equity from the weekend, but we're going to continue plugging forward. Didn't want to mention that. But now, play of the day. There's a lot of people who are going to be eyeing this match out, and anybody who tells Brad bets for the last year or 2 is no surprise when you hear this name, Hoffenheim. Well, Midtjylland in the Danish Super League are taking on a Hoffenheim squad from Germany's Bundesliga. Midtjylland come in scoring in 25 straight matches. They've conceded in 22 of their last 26 as well. Regular scorers, regular conceders. When teams hit both teams to score, but when they play, in 31 of the last 34 matches that both teams to score, the over 2.5 also came in. So regular goals, especially when both teams score. Let's take a look at Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim scored in 49 of their last 56. That is 88% of the time. Hoffenheim has scored, but they've also conceded in 40 of their last 41 matches. That's 1 clean sheet in the last 367 days for Hoffenheim. Shambolic defending. They've hit over 2.5 goals in 17 of the last 18 matches that hit both teams to score. So when both teams score on both sides, you hit that over 2.5 with regularity. These lines have been moving and moving and moving and moving continuously. I was prepared to give you the play of the day with the over first half goal, over 2.5 goals, both teams to score, parlayed all 3 of those together at minus 130. That's now over minus 150. So the best play for this day, given the current state and situation, I'm going to go with the bet split. It's a team total bet split. Over 1.5 team total for Midtjylland and over 1.5 team total for Hoffenheim. Midtjylland's at minus 135, Hoffenheim's at minus 115. In order to get to the over 2.5, you're going to have 1 team score at minimum. Based on how often that they're conceding and how often that they're scoring, both teams' score should come in. The over 2.5 should come in. The BTTS is sitting around minus 300. The over 2.5 around minus 250. If you can potentially wait this out, go ahead. But I don't have any faith, mostly because in 22 straight matches that Hoffenheim have played, over 0.5 goals in the first half has come in, which means teams are getting off to a flying start. If one team scores in this, it's not going to be playable at halftime. Neither the BTTS or the over 2.5 are going to be playable. So what we're going to do is we'll jump into this bet split. Over 1.5 on the team total for both teams. Midtjylland minus 135, Hoffenheim minus 115. And if this line does drop for the both teams to score live, we're probably going to go ahead and hop into it and double down. Now, these are my 4 favorite matches that I've seen, with one highlighting the play of the day. We have a high-performing DBU Pokalen, which is just killing it. We also have the high-performing Germany 3 League, which has been hitting with regularity lately. 5 matches coming up at noon Central Time. So make sure you have those, are watching those, because they're a little bit juiced around minus 200 lines. So if those drop, that'll be an easy play for you guys to make. Now, it looks like we have a lot of messages, but not a lot of questions today. Obviously, we're going to go after Hoffenheim. We go after Hoffenheim every week, no matter what, because they're a high performer. this week nonetheless, especially if they're playing a high performer like Midtjylland, who we also go after in the Danish Super League. So let's take all this information today, look to apply it, make sure we take a screenshot of the board for this match, hop into that live as well, and this will conclude. Sorry, Al has just popped up with a message. How would you add 1.5 to parlay team total for game? Would I add it? Over 1.5 in the first half. I would rather, if you're going to play the over 1.5 in the first half, I would rather you take another bet split of Midtjylland to score and of Hoffenheim to score separately. Minus 140-ish, minus 125-ish. If one team scores, you get your money back. And then you can assess what situation you're at. If you think they're going to have two, based on what we're seeing here, you don't want to hit both teams to score in the first half. You would rather take that over 1.5. But if those individual team totals are playable in the first half, which I know they are, that might be an interesting look that you want to go after. A separate one. It's a very, just like the team total of the over 1.5, it's a very easy way to look at trying to take a narrative without trying to really harm yourself. Arsenal playing their big guns today? No, I don't think we are. I just woke up to word that Arsenal might be starting their 16-year-old keeper, making his first team debut. The EFL Cup for Arsenal might be a real dumbed-down unit. A lot of these fringe players could see action. Based on this heavy fixture slate we had back-to-back on Tottenham away, Manchester City, or Atalanta, and then Manchester City. Now we're playing the EFL Cup before we have a weekend fixture. I think Arteta gives us a lot of rotation. So I don't expect too much from these EFL Cup matches. Yesterday, Chelsea and Man City late threw out massive lineups, but City did their typical score a couple and sit and just relax, whereas Chelsea did their typical score and score and score and score. We're going to probably be targeting one of those teams who scores and scores and scores this weekend, as well as many other bets. But today, that concludes our episode of Shots on Target with your host, Brad Betts, your go-to show for global football analysis and betting. Today is Wednesday, September 25. We will be back tomorrow again with highlighting the Europa League with some more best bets before our Friday episode, which is straight nothing but weekend best bets, heavy and intensive. Thanks again for you guys for coming and joining our episode today. We're going to get you out of there before our upcoming matches in a few hours. Chris Kowalski, let's get it. Appreciate you guys again. Al, Brad Morris, Claudio, Vanchi. Oh, any thoughts on the Bodo Group? We did go over that. Sorry, I missed that. We went over that extensively. It was the second match that we covered. Lots of thoughts there. Russell Johnson, good to see you. Brad Morris, as always. Again, we'll conclude today. And if you have any questions, shoot me in the DMs. I'll be sure to help answer anything, and we'll look for live bets as the slate advances. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.